Welcome, brothers and sisters, to the Meher Baba program. I'm Fred Stankus, along with my co-host Suhas Ginde. Welcome, Suhas.
Thank you.
And we're picking up where we left off from last week. This is part 4 of a 4-part series so far. We may go on into more parts. Readings and messages from Meher Baba. And these are from this little booklet called Meher Baba Calling. And this was published in 1964 on the first edition, and then republished in India in 1992. And so these are messages that Baba was directing both to his close disciples, called the Mandali, and also to the general public. It's for you to maybe take out from these messages what's good for you, and also if it's beyond you, you at least will know that these messages were given by Baba. And the first one says, in message 12, achieve the goal of life. Now when you think of that, that is what we all seek. And the easiest way to achieve the goal of life is to leave all and follow me through love. Isn't that a familiar call?
And Jesus said the same thing.
You know, he came to your home.
He just said, follow me.
Follow me, come follow me. And then they said, well, how about my baby, my kids, my family?
He said, to bury the dead.
Yes, now come follow me. So Baba sends that same message. He says, I do not mean that you should leave your house and family and come here. I mean that you be in your house and with your family, but love me as I want you to love me. Mm-hmm. Love me above all. That is the simplest way. A still more simple way to attain the goal is to obey me. Mm-hmm. Obey me implicitly. That is simpler than the simplest thing. Try. If you try, I help you. Mm-hmm. Once you have determined to obey, you are no longer your own. Mm-hmm. The slightest hypocrisy spoils your determination and makes the whole thing a farce. Do anything I tell you at the cost of life itself. If you do obey me 100% with all sincerity, and any cost, it will be greater than loving me. You know, I wanted to comment about, maybe you could comment on this. Baba is saying it's a simple way, is simpler than the simplest thing, to obey me. Try, if you try, I will help you. Once you have determined to obey, you are no longer your own. What does that mean? I mean,
it means that you're controlled by the higher being that you've devoted yourself to.
But the thing is, this is controversial in these days. You know, with the fanaticism around the world. People are thinking that, oh, I am guided by this, so I'm doing this.
He's talking about loving your higher self. And Baba himself had said it is difficult for people to love me as I want to be loved. You know, in the same way that I love you. The humanity. So he says the next best thing is to obey me, and he gave certain orders to some of his close followers to live a certain type of life, like his Mandali and people who were close to him. Now that he's out of the body, it's difficult for him to give orders to obey, but he has given certain guidelines by which we want to become one or closer to God. We can follow those, like how to love God and so on.
Yes, we did.
Which is also in a lot of the, I saw some on the internet, the how to love God passages are there. So these are like guidelines for people to get closer and closer to God. The first, he says, is to leave all and follow me. It means leave and follow my principles. I'll leave your family and kids and all that. And the second way, he says, is that you can still live the life of a householder and do all the necessary things you have to do to raise your family and so on. But be honest and sincere. Those were some of the were some of the instructions that he'd given, how to live a life of being good and not doing deceitful things and not doing evil things, not doing mean things. So that was another.
So many people from different faiths have similar type paths as this. A Christian will love Jesus every day, every night, take his name. A Buddhist will do the same.
Yes, loving the same.
A Muslim will do the same. A Jewish person will do the same. I mean, loving God in that way.
There is only one God, and you have to love God.
Yes.
When you talk about Hinduism, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, and Buddhism, and all these isms, those are like rivers that are all going into one ocean. There's only one God. They just worship God in a different way because they were in a different part of the world, where there were different conditions, different environments.
But this achieving the goal of life message applies to anyone.
Yes.
From any path you follow. I mean, when Baba is saying me, he basically is saying God.
Yes.
Because Baba is the avatar of this age. Yes. As I said in the last show, Baba is in a succession of avatars, and he is, I guess they say, the seventh one in this cycle, this final cycle. I mean, there was Zoroaster, Rama, Krishna, Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, now Baba is the seventh.
It's the same avataric consciousness that descends on earth at different times, at different places.
Right.
The Sufis say that. My beloved comes at different times in different garbs. It's the same avataric consciousness that descends in the human form. That human form at different times and different places is called by different names.
And he's giving to our contemporary minds his message for this time.
Yes, he's just making it simple again, and he said he had come to awaken and not to teach.
So it's a fortunate time for many to know that one has walked the earth again.
Yes, so there is hope. There's hope for humanity.
That's good to hear.
That's the main thing. He says, have no expectations of reward. Whatever suffering may befall you, you should put up with it, with full faith in and love for Baba. At the most, what could happen? You might die. It is so very obvious that you have to die one day. You have to drop this body sooner or later. Why not then think that your body is not there already and so act detached?
I love that saying because, you know, when you go along with what Meher Baba has given in The Nothing and Everything about that, what you say, that 8,400,000 births and deaths, he has said that a soul goes through as a human being. And then, you know, I mean, think of that. He calls them, they're really dreams, but you go through these incarnations, 8,400,000 of them. So what is one life in the succession of all those particular births and deaths? And if one knows, you see how a God realized being addresses us. He knows that we hold on to our life is so precious, but he realizes that it's one life in the succession of millions of them. So, anyway.
And again, here he talks about what I just said. One more thing you must remember is, be honest. I am in everyone and in everything. But that doesn't mean he's physically in each one and everything. It means that inner consciousness.
Well, also, going back to that same thought that I have, is the fact that a wise person, like Baba says, why not give up all your attachments to the world and die to the world now? You're eventually going to die. A wise person would say, you know, that's true. Old age sets in eventually. And so a wise investing type of individual will say, well, I want to invest in something that has longevity. And that would be the truth.
Old age is part of the process.
Exactly.
And then he says, I am in everyone and everything because God is in everyone and everything. He knows everything. So be resigned completely to His will. The best thing for you to do is just to love me honestly, work for me. I alone endure. That means my God consciousness alone endures. All else is but a passing show, a farce. In the work you do for me, you should have no expectations of reward for any work you do.
You know, that's a very important paragraph. I alone endure, all else is a passing show for the work you do for me, meaning this TV show. we're doing this TV show, and
It's now.
We may think that it's a message getting out there, but does it really matter? Like according to Baba says, you should have no expectations of reward. You do.
It doesn't matter from my point of view, but if someone out there in the viewing audience, it clicks this message.
I see what you're saying.
It helps that person in some way, shape, or form.
It's just like the essence of a scent of a flower.
And that's how you do action without actually getting involved in it. Like we read in the last show, desire, or rather where it says, you must lose yourself to find God. You must to be ever present with God, never be absent from God. Deny your false self and your real self. I mean, what does it matter? This show we're doing right now, and then tomorrow we'll be doing something else. That's why it says it's an illusion. I
guess it's better to do this, though, than something else.
It is real for us while we are doing it in this present moment, and when they'll be shown on the TV program. But beyond that, it's just a message to whoever is out there to receive it.
And the next message is really, really something. This is when Baba gave the highest of the high. And this message says, it was a long declaration. This is just a capsulization of it.
54?
In 1954, the highest of the high. This is message 14, the excerpt. Baba says, know you all that if I am the highest of the high, my role demands that I strip you of all your possessions in once. Mm-hmm. Basically, he's saying, like what you said last week, that the avatar comes to take from you the illusionary connections you have.
That you're caught up in.
You're caught up with. And so, in a way, people who are connected in heavy material things may fear that and say, no, don't take me away from these things. I like these things. I want my money. I want my good times.
Well, then they cannot come close to God.
So I guess people living in that lifetime, this would be like a ship passing through the night. This will pass right by. Mm-hmm. So, and it says that my role demands that I strip you of all your possessions and once consume all your desires and make you desireless rather than satisfy your desires. Mm-hmm. Sadhus, saints, walis, and yogis can give you what you want.
Now, there are people like that in the world who can.
A lot of people go to them. They say, I went to my yogi and he gave me this magic taste or touch, or I went to this saint who gave me wealth. But Baba says, but I take away your wants and free you from attachments and liberate you from the bondage of ignorance. Mm-hmm. So ignorance is what keeps us here. Mm-hmm. I am the one to take, not the one to give what you want or as you want. But he's giving his love in the same way. I mean, he's saying he's not giving you the possessions, but he is to take away from you the ignorance.
Well, he wants to take you away from your attachment to the external world. And by being desireless means you have no sanskaras. They wiped out. When he wipes out the sanskaras, your mind then gets annihilated.
So this message actually is saying that if you repeated God's name or Baba's name, eventually would probably lead you to actually have him to start to erase and remove some of the things that are in your mind and impressions. And then Baba says, mere intellectuals can never understand me through their intellect. Because if you were describing, well, we just described this process of taking away ignorance, and intellectuals say, I tend to disagree, intellectually, I feel that my scientific research and breakthroughs in life and creation really give me a different point of view. And then Baba says, if I am the highest of the high, it becomes impossible for your intellect to gauge me. Mm-hmm. Nor is it possible for my ways to be fathomed by the limited human mind. Mm-hmm. So God cannot be understood through the mind. I am the one so many seek and so few find. No amount of intellectual effort can fathom me. Only when one loves me and loses himself in me am I found.
Yes.
So
when you become one with him, with that
sounds like a long journey, doesn't it?
But that's instantaneous if he can give that by his grace. He can take you from where you are right now to the 7th plane or the highest plane in an instant.
Don't you have to?
It's a long journey when you're going through the process, but He can shortcut that. By His grace, He can give God realization to anybody by a glance or a touch. If He so chooses, He has that power and the ability. But here's another one, how you should approach me. It's number 15. I declare to all of you who approach me, and to those of you who desire to approach me, accepting me as the highest of the high, that you must never come with a desire in your heart which craves for wealth and worldly gain, but only with a fervent longing to give your all, body, mind, and possessions, with all their attachments. Seek me not in order to extricate you from your predicaments, but find me in order to surrender yourself wholeheartedly to my will.
That's so difficult.
Exactly. It's not everyone.
Because you're living in the world. We're taught from childhood to survive, to find shelter, food, work for a living. You have to work when you come here. You can't get away. When you're born on the earth, you have to work. And you raise a family.
The only time you can work is when you get close to God and you're totally aware of His presence. Then you become, you sort of become like a master. But you have to have that realization. You have to want God, long for Him. You can't live without Him. Such people are rare.
And this sounds like a very private thing.
It is. The highest of the high was for His close.
No, but I'm saying it's even individually private. Because what you are experiencing, what you are going for, what you are fervently longing for, this can't be described in words. And so it's amazing. He says next,
cling to me not for worldly happiness and short-lived comforts, but adhere to me through thick and thin, sacrificing your own happiness and comfort at my feet. Let my happiness be your cheer and my comfort your rest. For those who lose their all in me shall have me ever after. And the best is just to remember me and forget everything else. Leave everything to me.
You've heard that a lot following Baba since, I followed him since 1967 when I found out about him, but I've heard that throughout these years where people say, I leave everything to Baba every day.
But they don't really mean it.
But I'm just saying though...
And that's where sincerity comes in. Your devotion to Baba has to be sincere. A lot of people say a lot of things. I'm this, I'm that, but it's meaningless unless they have that dedication and devotion within. And it's the same with, you can believe in anything. You have to have that devotion or that longing. Again, it comes back to longing.
Next message is, know me as all-knowing. What I want to tell you is that I know everything. I am in each of you and everywhere. As conscious real I in this false I of yours, I know everything. That is amazing. In other words, within our own false self that we develop, our ego, there is the real I that is in that.
Yes, that's the God within, or your higher self.
So is that sometimes that voice?
The voice within.
That you hear sometimes? Something gives you a...
It's not that you hear it through your
ear. Yeah, you're hearing it through...
It's more of an intuition.
Yes.
A feeling that comes.
It says, as conscious real I in this false I of yours, I know everything. You exist as you were existing because you were there, you are there, and you will continue to be there. You have been caught here in the snares of Maya or illusion, and the accumulation of sanskaras, impressions, makes you get more and more involved in Maya or illusion. All this life is a dream. The past and the future are not there. There is only the eternal now in the everlasting present. You've heard that these people speak of the eternal now. That's the only moment that really exists.
Right now.
Yes. Everything else is just in the show that's passing. If you take me to be God, God is all-knowing. What is it then that makes you come to me with your difficulties? I think you were mentioning that earlier, how people will come to God.
Well, he said,
and they think that he doesn't know of their plight.
Well, there are sadhus and saints, people on the lower planes that can do miracles and do that for people, go to them for with their difficulties. He says, but I'm not that.
So in other words, what he's telling them is, I know you've come to me, John, Mary, with your difficulties, but I know them. I know you're suffering.
Yes.
And it's for a reason.
It's for a purpose.
And it says, as it is, it seems to you that I do not know everything. I know that I am knowledge itself. And so that's a different point of view versus a saint, versus Baba and a saint, you know.
Or even yogis and sadhus, and people go to them and they give them what they want, or give them advice, try to solve their problems or their difficulties.
Because I knew once a Baba lover, our names not to be mentioned, who basically said he did not want to go to Meher Baba's tomb because he knew that perhaps his life would be turned topsy-turvy when he came back to the States.
So he didn't really want to give up.
Yeah, well, he felt that probably something would happen because Baba has an effect on...
He was attached to his current life.
I know. And
so you can't have both. You have to have either... Or you can live your life with loving Baba, keeping him in the forefront of your mind.
So basically what you're saying then is, if I'm a human being and I'm enjoying the fruits of my labor in life, the profession that I'm in is reaping me great financial benefits and a nice family and everything else, and I say, why do I need the so-called spiritual whatever words or wisdom when I have all this? I have happiness, I'm happy. Why should I seek this? And then I hear about your followers, just hypothetically I'm speaking, who when they come to know of him, you get into these problems with your impressions and ego being affected. I don't want that. So that is something that easily can be probably heard from people in the world who would say
that's fine.
Why do I? They're not ready in that given lifetime for that message.
And they're also attached to the way they live, their lifestyle or whatever their possessions are.
So I guess this isn't for everybody then. Meher Baba, I mean...
Messages
they're for everybody, but they incorporate according to the person's
who are
place.
Seeking something beyond what's going on in their life. They're seeking something more than just getting up in the morning, going to work and coming back home, raising your family, and then watching TV or going to a movie or a sports game or something like that. Something beyond, because that happiness that you say that these people have because they have these things and possessions is not lasting. They also go through moments of suffering and pain. How do you know? He may be happy in your presence. Is that forever? Even Baba suffered. So as a human being, people are subject to happiness and misery. So they have to find something beyond. What is it that causes me to suffer? And it's only a few people then turn to God seriously.
This next message we should get in before we got 3 minutes left, because this is a very good message.
Keep your face towards me. Keep your faces turned towards the sun of truth, and your shadows of individualized Maya will lie behind you. And those still existent will have no power over you. But if you turn your backs to the sun, your shadows will be before you, and you will be following them. It's similar to what I said. Although by your yourselves, you cannot get rid of your shadows. If you turn your backs to them and keep facing the sun at the time of his full ascendance and glory, your shadows will disappear forever. For those on the spiritual path, I am the sun, giving them light and life. God is not to be found in the skies or in the caves of the Himalayas. God is in the heart of each one. Once your heart is clean, God will shine out of it.
Oh, that's for everyone.
Yes.
God is in the heart of each one.
And once it's clean, that's why you have to purify the heart by doing...
In other words, how do you clean your heart? You clean your heart from...
It's not like you take it out and put it in a washer, dry, or clean it with soap. It's cleaning it of the impressions, becoming desireless by doing good.
So good deeds lead to...
Well, trying to...
good actions.
Better than bad deeds.
It's better to be good than bad.
And cleaning out, well, by getting closer, that's how
because we're attached to our impressions, good or bad. But it's better to be good than bad. Because eventually the goodness...
Eventually you even give up even the fact that you're trying to do good and just go beyond that. God is beyond good.
So when your heart is clean, you have a feeling of love for all. You have honesty in your heart.
And sincerity and purpose.
And you try to think good thoughts about everything.
Think good thoughts about God in other people.
Speak good thoughts. You speak good things, I should say.
Yes.
Well, what does the Baba say?
Think, speak, and do.
Yeah, do good things.
That was Zoroaster.
And so basically, Baba is saying, so if you do these things, automatically God will shine out of your heart. He's there.
Because you're cleaning all the dirt out.
He's there now, but if you...
hides him.
He's hidden because your maybe ego or whatever is in front, but once that's eliminated, he'll shine out.
Your sanskaras also diminish.
Wow. Well, it looks like we're getting the 1 minute sign, so next week, or I should say the next programs, will continue on. This booklet has around a good, maybe 70, 80 messages, so we could be doing this for several more programs. And if you do want more information about Meher Baba, you could contact the Meher Baba Center at area code 323-731-3737. Meetings are 11 a.m. every Sunday, and the address is 1214 South Van Ness, LA 90019. And as Meher Baba says, Suhas, what does he say?
Real happiness lies in making others happy.
Oh, that's so good. Wonderful. Well, until next time, for Suhas Ginde, I'm Fred Stankus. Jai Baba.
Thank you.